Hello and welcome to another video, and today we're doing something different, we're doing something special. It's been a while since I've done an actual rant video, partially because there's not really been a lot for me to rant about. However, there is a topic I'd like to rant about now, and it's going to be a controversial one out there. Some people are going to be pissed about it, some people aren't going to like my viewpoints on it, but you know what? It's my opinion, it's my video, this is what I think, so here we go. So the topic of today's video is going to be let's rant about Disney and Star Wars and just everything that's going on with Star Wars and the films and the comics and the TV shows and everything, how it's just become too much. And this is a controversial opinion because right now a lot of Star Wars fans are out there riding a gravy train, essentially thinking this is the greatest time to be alive for a Star Wars fan, and they're not actually paying attention to the problem here, which is that yes, there's a lot of Star Wars content being produced, but the quality of the Star Wars content is starting to be less than I would want it to be. So specifically, I'm talking about games. I'm talking about, I don't really care about the TV shows. I've never been into the cartoon TV shows, but that's whatever. So we're going to avoid that part of this. However, the movies especially, let's talk about that. So 2015 hit and we got Star Wars Episode 7. Episode 7 was fine. It was fun. It was exciting. It was the first new Star Wars movie linked to the old trilogy in about 10 years. And that was an exciting time to live in. This wasn't just, hey, here's a prequel to what happened. This is new Star Wars. This is directly linked to what happens after, the question on everyone's mind that's a Star Wars fan. What happens after Episode 6? Obviously, in the 90s, there was a great trilogy of books written by Timothy Zahn that kind of gave out an outline of what Episodes 7, 8, and 9 could have been. However, all of that expanded Star Wars universe stuff got thrown out the window when Disney bought Star Wars, so all of that stuff doesn't exist, it's not canon. However, Disney has been pulling heavily from some of that stuff. Episode 7, a lot of people rag on it because it's very similar to Episode 4, and I do agree with that opinion. Like, there are some things, it follows pretty much every beat of A New Hope to a T, and a lot of people were very upset about that. I liked Episode 7, I thought it was a great movie. I had my issues with how much it borrows from the older Star Wars movies, but at the end of that movie, I had hope of where this trilogy was going to go. I was really excited. I liked the new characters. I liked Poe Dameron and Rey and Finn and Kylo Ren, and I was very excited to see what was going to happen with Episode 8. The following year, they did something different. They made another prequel Star Wars movie. This time, a prequel of events between Episodes 3 and Episodes 4 about the Death Star plans and everything that happens there. And you know what? It's an okay movie. Now, this is one that I'll get a lot of shit for because there are people that swear by Rogue One and think it's an excellent, great movie. For me, personally, I really enjoyed Rogue One. I think it's a good movie. The last 10 minutes alone are worth watching that entire movie. The last 10 minutes of Rogue One are some of the best moments in any Star Wars movie. However, a lot of Rogue One, to me, felt like a poorly written fan fiction film. And that's kind of where we are with Star Wars right now, because this isn't George Lucas writing it. These are fans that have grown up with Star Wars are writing this stuff. And that's not a bad thing, but when I watched Rogue One the entire time, I just felt like I was watching a lesser Star Wars movie. I don't know. That was just the feeling I had while watching it. It's not a bad movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I think it deserves a spot in the trilogy, but I don't think it's a great movie. And again, that last 10 minutes of that movie are utterly incredible for any Star Wars fan. It's an incredible sequence of events that I never even thought about until I saw it, and it was awesome. So, flash forward to last fall, we got Episode 8. Episode 8 was one of my most anticipated movies of last year. I was eagerly waiting to see what were they going to do with the second part of this new trilogy. You know, is it just going to be Empire Strikes Back again, or are they going to do something new and original? And I had my problems with Episode 8. I don't think Episode 8's a great movie. At times, it almost is poorly written. Characters are just kind of flung out. you know, a big thing, a big problem I have with Episode 8, and sorry, this whole video is going to be spoilers about Star Wars, so you should know that ahead of time. However, a big problem I had with Episode 8 was they killed the character of Supreme Leader Snoke. They built this character up as basically a badder version of the Emperor, and he has all these Force powers, and he's killed by Kylo Ren? With a simple Force trick of a little flick of his wrist, essentially, and that lightsaber cuts him in half, and that character's dead. He's gone. We got no answers. I waited 2 years for the answers to who this big badass Emperor guy was, and I got nothing from it. And maybe they're going to talk about that in Episode 9, and maybe this is a problem that will be rectified or could be rectified in a future movie. But to have the rug pulled out of you like that is utterly incredible, and in not a good way. It's kind of shitty. And that left a real bad taste in my mouth during Episode 8. Now, putting that aside, there's some excellent moments in Episode 8. I think the moment of Luke going back on the Millennium Falcon for the first time in 30 years and his conversation with R2-D2 is one of my favorite moments in any recent movie. And that moment alone is worth watching the movie. And I don't think Episode 8 is necessarily a bad movie either. There are really good moments in it that I enjoy, but there's also some just really shitty things in that movie. And it was a very middle of the road. I didn't walk out of it loving it, but I didn't walk out of it hating it. And it also left me indifferent on Episode 9. I don't know where it could go. And that's the important thing to know. It's good or it's bad. I don't know what Episode 9 is at this point. Nobody knows. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But, you know, we're now 3 years into this Disney plan with Star Wars and the films, and come this May, and this is going to date this video at some point, however, we're getting another standalone Star Wars movie, this time taking predominantly one of the greatest characters in all of Star Wars, as in Han Solo, and they've made his own solo movie, if you will, as a prequel to tell the events of Han Solo before you saw him in Episode 4. I think this is a terrible idea. I've said this from day one. I don't want this movie. I don't need this movie. I don't need to know the events of Han Solo before he was Han Solo. And when you watch the trailer, they held on to this trailer for a long time. You know, the appropriate time to have released this trailer would have been last December in front of Star Wars Episode 8. Disney didn't do that, and I think Disney knows that they have a dud on their hands, and a lot of Star Wars fans are not going to take to somebody else playing that iconic role. Harrison Ford is a phenomenal actor. He is Han Solo, much like he is Indiana Jones. No one else is going to be able to take up that mantle and just play that character. And this new guy, whose name I can't pronounce, looks nothing like Harrison Ford young. He doesn't sound anything like Han Solo. And the trailer is just very generic. It doesn't do anything for me when I watch it. You know, the only hint of Star Wars I see in it is seeing Donald Glover as Lando, who actually looks pretty good. I'll give you credit there. Throwing Chewie in there for a second, and the Millennium Falcon. If you took those three things out, this looks like some generic, crappy sci-fi movie that just happens to have Han Solo in it. It doesn't look good. You know, there's dialogue in the trailer that just seems incredibly generic. Like, I've been running scams on the street since I was 10 years old. Who gives a shit? And it just goes to show, like, now we're at a point where I saw a good quote on Twitter the other day where somebody said, you know, how do you feel after it was like 26 years with only 6 Star Wars movies, and now within 6 years you're getting 26 Star Wars movies? And I have to agree with that statement, because I feel like we're almost at a point where I want a break from Star Wars. Like, I would have been super happy if they would have just came out and said, hey, we're making episodes 7, 8, and 9 for now, and there's 2-year breaks in between, and I would have been happy. I don't need something every year in Star Wars. And if I really want it, I could read it in the comics, or I could watch one of the TV shows or something. And Disney is going to milk this franchise for every penny it's worth. Why wouldn't they? They spent a shit ton of money on acquiring the rights to Star Wars, and it's literally a license to print money. So why wouldn't they do it? If I had the ability to own the rights to Star Wars, I would probably do the same thing. No, just like, screw it, I would do the same thing. However, it's just a sign of issues ahead. Like, and again, with the Solo thing, there's so many characters in the Star Wars universe that you could take and make a potential standalone film about. Boba Fett, this rumored Obi-Wan thing, bring Ewan McGregor back. Let's do it. Let's do that. I want that movie. I want a Boba Fett movie. You know, here's two characters that you can expand stories upon. Hell, in the Obi-Wan movie, you can get Ewan McGregor to do it again, and he's about the right age now. Let's do that. Like, why aren't we doing that? Instead, let's take one of the most, if not the most iconic Star Wars character and make a solo movie about him, a prequel, and get somebody else to play him. That's just trash. I don't want, like, what's next? Are we going to make a young Luke Skywalker movie? I don't want that. It's interesting, you know, and it shows me that Disney is not very confident in this Han Solo movie when they held that trailer from being attached in front of Episode 8 all the way to the Super Bowl. I mean, this is the first trailer we've seen for a movie that comes out in 3 months. And it's not been delayed. I'm still shocked that this movie hasn't been delayed till December. I still have a feeling it will be. You have to look at, like, I've seen a group of people starting to churn against Disney on Star Wars right now. I wouldn't say I'm personally there yet. I think a lot of my issues with Episode 8 can be rectified in Episode 9, but we'll see. I think the Han Solo movie might be a misfire, but that doesn't mean they can't make a great Boba Fett movie or a Ewan McGregor-led Obi-Wan movie. They still can totally do that, and it might still happen. You have to look at the side of things in the game front. You know, they put out Battlefront 2. I mean, they were heavily attached to that. That's an entire different trash fire that we're not really going to get into here, but you have to take a step back and look at Disney's handling of Star Wars. It's been whatever. I mean, I'm happy that we're getting new Star Wars movies and stuff here in 2015, but at the same time, I just feel like we're getting a little bit close to too much. What is too much with Star Wars at this point? Like, I kind of would like a little bit of a break. And maybe just a year off. You know what? Just a year off. You know, and here's what I would like to see. I don't know if it'll happen. Let's let Han Solo come out in May. Let's let it bomb and be a dud or whatever it happens to. It happens. I don't want to see another Star Wars movie release from then until Episode 9, which is the following year. So we'll see if that happens, but I feel like something else will get shoved out in between there because it's Disney and they want to make money off this shit. So anyways, I'd love to know your opinions and your thoughts on this. How are we living in a time where there are too many Star Wars things going on with movies and games and comics and all this shit? Or are you just happy? Do you just go to the theater, you watch these movies and go, yeah, it's pretty good, and you're happy and you're pleased with it? I'd love to know your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.